Greetings, I am Herbert Erpaderp, and this is Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. In fact, it's the 150th Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. That's a lot of Ask a Herbert Erpaderps. I don't actually have anything planned to celebrate this, though maybe I should have. Turns out I didn't really think about it, and it's probably a little bit late now. Maybe next time.
You won't be doing another 150th one, Herbert, this is the only one!
Good point. Anyway, let's welcome our newest patron, Max. Thank you for your support, I appreciate it. And I do hope you'll enjoy being a patron. You might even be watching this early, which is one of the things you can do when you're a patron. If you want to be awesome like Max, the link to Patreon is in the description below. Okay, now let's get to the questions. The Naval Guy said, have you ever considered playing World of Tanks Blitz or World of Warships Blitz? If you've played it, what's your favourite tank from World of Tanks Blitz? And what is your favourite ship from World of Warships Blitz? As I understand it, those are really just mobile versions of the regular games. Obviously there's some differences, and I don't really like playing games on my phone. If I'm out, it's usually for a reason, and if I have to wait and rely on my phone to occupy me, I'll usually just look at Twitter or something like that. Something I don't have to get too involved in. If I'm home and I want to play a game, I've got my PC, so it makes sense to use that, and I don't see a point in starting a new grindy game like World of Tanks or World of anything, where I would be starting from scratch when I could just play it on PC. That said, I very rarely feel like playing it on PC these days either. Not really the sort of game I've been feeling like playing lately. Anyway, I guess that answer kind of renders the second part of the question irrelevant. Trekan Beluvic said, did you ever have a car accident? I've been in accidents, but I've never had one where I was the driver. Unless you count the plastic plant pot that I didn't see and backed into when I'd had my license for a week or two. And hopefully I haven't jinxed myself by saying that. I have been in a handful of car accidents as a passenger, but nothing serious enough to cause injury, thankfully. I've also witnessed a couple of accidents and I feel like I've been pretty lucky. Spanish Boy said, favourite tractor equipment? Do you mean equipment a tractor pulls, like a planter or a plough? Or equipment on the tractor, like, I don't know, a hydraulic pump or something? I don't really have a favourite. I guess I do like using the planter or seeder in Farming Sim, but I feel pretty indifferent really, most of the things are more or less the same. Not the most exciting answer, I guess, but it is an answer. Fog of War said, congratulations on your upcoming 150th Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. Are you still interested in 15mm scale wargaming kits? Flames of War is heading up to the late war German Bulge. Hehe, Bulge. And they have a plastic King Tiger and Jagdtiger in the works. Would any of these tickle your fancy to build? Also, Trekan follows my channel too. Excellent work on the US infantry figure in Ask a Herbert Erpaderp 149. We should totally hijack Ask a Herbert Erpaderp to talk to each other. No hijacking! I mean, unless you really want to. It would be quite inefficient, but I'm probably not going to stop you. I am definitely interested in 15mm scale wargaming kits, Flames of War or otherwise, and plastic King Tigers and Jagdtigers are certainly very appealing. I have also had my eye on the Hungarian Zrínyi 75mm ass assault gun. In fact, I was umming and ahhing over those just a couple of days ago. I haven't picked up any Flames of War kits for a while because, well, mostly because they're so expensive, and I have been trying pretty hard to get through the, quite frankly, ridiculous pile of models I have before buying more. Also, I am trying to have something of a model railway budget, but rest assured, there will be more Flames of War stuff coming. Hetz's Gunner Hetz said, since this is your 150th Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, have you considered building a 150th scale kit? I can't say that I have. It seems like a pretty uncommon scale, though I do think I've seen some ships and maybe some rockets in that scale, but it's not really something I thought about. I do have a 148th scale signal box kit for N scale. Is that close enough? No? Okay. Hetz's Gunner Hetz said, what was the hardest game you've ever played? I don't know. Probably one of those old-timey games where you got a set amount of lives, and you couldn't save, and if you lost all of your lives you had to start from the beginning. I can't think of any particular games, actually most of them around that time were like that, and I also can't think of anything that was especially hard that I've played in recent years. I guess games like Rust can be kind of hard, but it's not really the game that makes it hard. And really, if a game was too hard, it would probably just kill my enjoyment for it, and I would stop playing and probably forget about it. I'm not really into games being hard for the sake of them being hard. Trekan Belovich said, if you find and build a proper model of a modern tractor, will you paint it pink? I very well might. We all know that pink tractors farm better, so it's just gotta be done really. Trekan Belovich said, are you wearing trousers when you are streaming? It depends. How do you define trousers? If you mean specifically trousers and not like jeans, then no. If you just mean some sort of pants, then yes. It would be just my luck that if I did stream with no pants on, one of the camera mounts would fail, and then the camera would swing down to just the right position to get me banned for TOS violation. Doesn't seem like a lot of fun. That British model guy said, have you ever had a kit so bad you just had to smash it? Not really. Well, I did let my frustrations get the better of me with the destroyer in the Revell Ark Royal kit. It did only get stabbed with the clippers and not totally smashed, but I guess it's the same thing. Usually I have much better self-control, and if something is bad enough that it makes me angry, I just stop trying with it, because after all, it is a hobby and it shouldn't be getting you mad. Hetz's Gunner Hetz said, why do AFVs and aircraft models share 72nd and 48th scale standardized scales in common, but AFVs use 135th and aircraft use 132nd? This year's Shizuoka hobby show made me think about this. Looks like Zorekimura? I can't read that. This company showed off their new toolings for 32nd scale Kawasaki Ki-100 and Focke-Wulf FW190 kits, and Takom is planning a 35th scale VK101P Mammoth. I know Monogram made a 32nd scale M4 Sherman, and Airfix made a 32nd scale Crusader back in the mid-1970s, but those were exceptions to the rule. For those who want to display their AFVs next to their aircraft, wouldn't this be annoying? I'm sure it is annoying. It probably comes down to something like, this type of thing has always been in this scale, and it being too much effort or not enough benefit to changing. Also, I suspect it may have something to do with the fact that companies exist to make money with as little effort as possible, so they just don't care if people want to display their planes and tanks together, not unless there's enough profit to be made to justify making any changes to make sure people can display their stuff together. And then there's wargaming models where the planes and ground vehicles are usually in significantly different scales, and I'm pretty sure the main reason for that is to create a sort of forced perspective, so a smaller scale plane should look like it's further up in the air. I guess what I'm trying to say is I've got no idea. If anybody has any interesting insights into this kind of thing, I would be keen to hear it. Trekan Belovich said, who is more dangerous, Kefi or Bevo? Probably Kefi. Bevo can't operate heavy machinery. Neither can Kefi, but that doesn't seem to stop him. Lutanton said, have you ever thrown a model out or thrown it in the box of shame because you messed up? I don't think so. Even if a model is bad and won't go together or whatever, I would usually keep it, because maybe it could be used for something else. The best example I have is the incomplete Airfix Bismarck hull that I use mostly for testing paint. Also, I don't have a box of shame, so I can't do that, I guess. Hetz's Gunner Hetz said, when playing games, do you prefer using a mouse and keyboard or an Xbox controller? Mouse and keyboard. I do have an Xbox controller, and I assume it still works, but I've only ever really used it to play games like Grand Theft Auto, mostly because it just feels a bit nicer to steer the cars with the stick thing. Monol said, if you could convert any tank into a bed, like those race car beds, which tank would it be? I think that would be so cool that I wouldn't even care what kind of a tank it was, but I guess a Centurion bed would be cool. Hetz's Gunner Hetz said, is the Curtis SO3CC Mew just a seafaring variant of the mythical Pokemon Mew? I don't know anything about the Pokemans, so I'll just say yes, it sure is. That British model guy said, how is the preparation for the Holy Crusade against snap kits going? There's no crusade, holy or otherwise. Sounds a bit too religious for me to want to partake. I will, however, continue gluing snap kits together and ingesting the tears of those who are upset by it. Trekan Beluvic said, I've heard from someone that he used matte varnish spray as a primer. Have you ever done this? I've never done that. Did he say if it was effective or not? I'd be interested to know. I guess matte varnish does leave a sort of slightly rough surface, for lack of better description, kind of like primer does. Though even if it did work, I don't think I would like doing it. It would be hard to see where you've applied it. When you spray black primer, for example, over grey plastic, you know where you've primed and that's kind of helpful. You wouldn't get that with a clear varnish. It would be interesting to know if it works though. I suspect it might not. Spanish Boy said, here in the States, Spanish and Italian are taught in schools, with Spanish as a requirement. Does Australia have anything similar, or was it not a requirement, rather just an option for fun? I haven't gone to school for 700 years or so my knowledge is maybe a bit outdated, but in Australian schools, we're required to do a foreign language class until grade 9. I'm pretty sure it's grade 9, it might be 10. Anyway, I don't think you get a choice in any of the classes until grade 9, which is when most classes become electives, though some, like English, are still mandatory. So we did get taught a language, and where I went to school it was German, and if you've heard me try to speak any German, you'll know how effective that was. Australia is of course an island, we don't have any borders with anybody that speaks another language, unless you count Aboriginal, and I think it would be good if we did learn Aboriginal languages, but it's not up to me I guess. So there isn't really a big reason to learn another language, and so depending on where you are, they teach different languages. The most common ones I've heard of people learning in Australia are German, Japanese, French, and Mandarin, though there's probably a whole bunch of others in various different places. Herchion said, N-gauge is about 12mm scale. Would you consider going to 12mm to incorporate your trains in wargaming? I don't think so. I have definitely thought about the sorts of tanks and stuff I could get in N-scale, but I don't really want to combine gaming and model railways. I would probably then have to build the table to a particular size, and then I would have to make sure that all of the scenery would stand up to being gamed on, and have the buildings and such placed with gaming in mind, and I think that would make it a bit less fun. Also, I can just imagine a stray dice demolishing a structure, or worse, knocking a train to the floor. In the YouTube comment section of last month's Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, a random Death Corp of Kriegsman said, can you dig a trench in a future video? It depends. I'll need at least $50 an hour for that kind of thing, and much more if I'm not going to be using a digging machine. Also, I don't have anywhere to dig a trench, so you'll need to supply a location too. And I can think of quite a few other things I would rather be doing, so I do hope there's some sort of interesting reason for a trench. Okay, that's it for the questions this month. Let's go and have a look at some of the models that have been shared in the Discord community over the last month or so. Hope for the Best shared this small Lehman Russ. This is a 100th scale, or 15mm scale, 3D printed model, and it fits right in the palm of your hand. It's also been painted really nicely. I do enjoy me some camo schemes, with black outlines around the colours like you've done here. Very cool. That British model guy shared this Cromwell, and who doesn't like a nice little Cromwell? This is a 56th scale model from Warlord Games, and I think it's been painted really nicely. I like that the commander seems to be pointing at something. Maybe he's saying something like, hey, they're over there, run them over. Good times. Very nice work. Trekan Beluvic shared this nice little set of M24 Chaffies. These are 15mm scale.
Don't you mean 100th scale?
Yes, both of those. These are plastic Chaffies from Battlefront, and they look really cool, both the model itself and Trekan's paint job. The insignia of the 14th Cavalry Group has been hand-painted on the side of these turrets. That looks really good. I would have just assumed it was a decal. Monol shared this Crusader, which looks like it's totally ready to go out crusading, which is obviously what Crusaders do. This is a 48th scale Mark II Crusader from Tamiya, and I'm sure you will agree that it's been painted really nicely. Monol painting something nicely? I'm totally surprised!
I'm not surprised at all. Good work, Monol.
Argonaut 248 shared this 700th scale version of HMS Invincible, which is clearly a ship that cannot be vinced. Ha ha ha. I'm so funny. That rust makes it look like it's been at sea for a while, and obviously that's the point. Very well done. Ratto said, I don't think he's a good boy anymore. And, well, that's nonsense. All dogs are good dogs, even very bad dogs. This beastly looking beast is a Direwolf from a Games Workshop Direwolves box set, and I think it looks pretty cool. I don't want to pat it, but I will look at it from afar and think that it looks cool. Here's another ship. This one is from Sleepy. This is a Flyhawk 700th scale model of HMS Lance, wearing World of Warships Hunter camo. I don't know anything about the World of Warships part, but I do rather like the camo. It's kind of like a less dazzling dazzle scheme. I rather like multicoloured stuff on ships like this. It's a lot more interesting than just a single grey colour. Clearly this has been painted really well. Awesome job. Stolas shared this little initial production Tiger. It's so small and fits right into your hand. I believe they revised the size in the production run so people could get inside and fight the war.
You're so funny, Herbert.
Thanks, I know. This is a dragon model in 72nd scale, and obviously it's also really nicely painted. Okay, so that's it for the models this month. I hope you've enjoyed them like I have. If you want to see all of the models shared in the Discord community, then I guess you'll just have to join. There's far too much for me to share in a single Ask a Herbert Erpaderp episode. The link to Discord is, as usual, in the description below. Feel free to check it out and maybe share some of your own work. As always, a big thank you to everyone who shares their models and asks questions. And an extra thank you to my patrons, including our newest patron, Dermax. I appreciate you all. Ask a Herbert Erpaderp will be back next month, so put your questions in the appropriate question locations. You can find links to Patreon and all of my other things like Discord and social media in the description below. And as always, I shall return soon, so until then, be excellent to each other, have a nice day, and thank you for watching. Farewell.